In November 1969, the Apollo 12 crew crashed a lunar module into the moon's surface. The resulting vibrations lasted 55 minutes. Solid rock absorbs and dissipates. The moon resonated. Geophysicists reviewing the data used a phrase that appeared in the 1972 proceedings of the Lunar Science Conference and was quietly left without explanation. They described the readings as consistent with a large, hollow metallic structure. But the Book of Enoch had already described the moon's interior. Not as poetry, as specifications. What was placed inside? Who guards it? Why the entrance cannot be opened from the outside? And before we go further, I need to pause for a second, because what I'm about to tell you gets significantly darker. And I realized a while ago that some of this cannot be fully explained in a video format. The complete reconstruction of what was relocated into the moon's interior before the flood, what was placed within the lunar boundary before the floodwaters rose, the names of the two watchers assigned to dwell inside the lunar circuit, the GES variant of Chapter 78 naming the specific class of being sealed there. Word for word, I put it all into a written document. It's linked below and the QR code is on your screen. Now let's continue. The text in question spans two sections of Enoch that Western scholarship has traditionally treated as unrelated. The first is the Astronomical Book, chapters 72 through 82, which the Dead Sea Scrolls material suggests is among the oldest portions of the entire collection. Fragments 4Q208 through 4Q211, stored at the Israel Museum's Shrine of the Book in Jerusalem, preserve portions of these chapters in Aramaic, carbon dated to the 2nd century BCE. The second is the Book of the Watchers, chapters 1 through 36, which overlaps with the Astronomical Book on specific vocabulary it uses to describe sealed structures. The key point is that Western editions have always printed these sections as separate documents with separate concerns. The Gaze manuscript tradition at Axum preserves them in a reading sequence that connects them. The chapter describing what the moon contains follows, in the Axum manuscript order, directly from the chapter describing the sealed structure beneath the ocean floor. Chapter 78 of the Astronomical Book opens with the angel Uriel showing Enoch the laws governing the moon. The GES word Uriel uses for law is Sarayot, a term that in Ethiopian ecclesiastical usage carries the sense of a foundational charter, a legislated arrangement rather than a natural pattern. Uriel is not explaining how the moon moves. He is explaining why the moon was structured the way it was structured. Within that same chapter, in verse 3, the standard translation reads, "And its face is lit from the sun." The Gaze at Axum contains a secondary clause documented by Dr. Ephraim Isaac in correspondence archived at the University of Manchester. The additional clause reads, "And within its darkened half, the arrangement endures." The word for arrangement is the same Ge'ez root used in chapter 18 to describe the structure Enoch was shown beneath the ocean floor, the house of compressed ice with walls of fire surrounding it. The same root, two structures, one beneath the ocean, one within the moon's dark half. The central verse of chapter 78 in the Axum manuscript uses a word that Joseph Millick's 1976 reconstruction of the Aramaic Dead Sea Scroll fragments renders as surface, the moon's surface. But the Gaze term documented in the Isaac correspondence is wist, which means enclosed contents, the thing held inside. It is not a geometric description of exterior shadowing, but a reference to what the moon holds within it. When Uriel shows Enoch the moon's wist, he is showing Enoch what the moon contains. That word, wist, appears elsewhere in Enoch in exactly two other contexts. Chapter 21-6 uses it to describe the contents of the deep prison beneath the earth. And chapter 61-5 uses it in the phrase Adar Nafas, which Dr. Isaac translated as the reservoir of breath, to describe the souls of the righteous preserved until resurrection. Three appearances of wist in the Enochic corpus. Three descriptions of things enclosed and held in a preserved state: the moon, the deep prison, and the preserved souls. The same structural word applied to all three. In chapter 69 of Enoch, the imprisoned watchers are cataloged by name and by the specific domain of knowledge each one transmitted to humanity before their arrest. The list runs through 20 leaders. Barakel taught astrology, Kokabiel taught constellation patterns, Shamsiel taught solar cycles, Arakiel taught geology and mineral identification, but 2 of the 20 are specifically assigned to the moon alone. Sariel is described as the one who taught the course of the moon, lunar phases, and the calendar. Asaradel is described as the one who taught the motion of the moon, the mathematical description of the orbital path. No other celestial body in the Enochic text receives 2 separate administrators. The sun receives 1, the stars collectively receive 1 watcher. The moon receives 2. That asymmetry has never been adequately addressed by scholarship that treats these beings as metaphors for astronomical observation. You do not assign two administrators to a body that only requires watching. You assign two administrators to a body that contains something requiring ongoing supervision from inside. The gaze phrase describing what Sariel and Asaradel are said to do is not, in the Axum manuscript, simply the verb for teaching. The fuller reading documented in the Isaac correspondence translates more precisely as dwelling within the bounds of the lunar circuit. Dwelling within. The gaze preposition is spatial. It describes location, not function. The Charles 1906 translation renders this as assigned to the moon, but assigned to and dwelling within are not the same claim. One describes a role, the other describes a position. The Axum manuscript places Sariel and Asaradel inside the boundary described by the moon's orbit, not alongside it, not observing it from without, within the boundary that the lunar orbit defines. Before we move on to the next passage, stop for a second. What you just heard about the two watchers placed within the lunar boundary is the part that changes everything, but it only makes sense when you see it written out next to the original Giez passage. The Warden assignments, the spatial preposition, it's all in the document linked below. Take 5 seconds right now, grab it, and then come back, because what comes next builds directly on it. The link is in the description. QR code is on your screen. Chapter 10 of Enoch records the instructions given to the archangels before the flood. Raphael is sent to bind Azazel. Michael is sent to deal with Shemiyaza and his associates. Gabriel is sent to address the Nephilim. But chapter 10 contains a fourth instruction that Western translations consistently compress into abstract language. The gaze of this verse contains a command to Gabriel to separate what must be separated and to place what must be placed in the region beyond human reach. The phrase the Axum manuscript uses for region beyond human reach is a compound that appears one other time in the Enochic corpus. It appears in chapter 78, where the same compound describes the moon's circuit. The pre-flood command given to Gabriel was to place something in the region the Astronomical Book identifies as the lunar boundary. The connection between these two verses is visible only in the Ge'ez. It disappears in any published English translation. The timing matters. Chapter 10 describes events before the flood waters rose. The placement command precedes the flood. Whatever was moved into the lunar boundary was moved there in the period the Enochic text describes as preparation for the flood, not after it, not during it. The moon, according to the Gaze reading of these two chapters together, was used as a relocation vessel during the most significant restructuring of the surface world the Enochic tradition records. The flood would destroy the surface. The reorganization of what had occupied the surface happened beforehand, and the moon's interior was the designated location for at least one category of what was reorganized. Chapter 69-15 records the oath that keeps the prison sealed. The oath, the text specifies, was sworn before the ocean existed, before the floor of the ocean was laid, before the stars were fixed. The containment arrangement was agreed upon before the physical world was assembled around it. This is the claim that distinguishes the Enochic framework from every other ancient imprisonment narrative. Greek mythology has gods imprisoned after conflicts with other gods. Babylonian tradition has demons bound, following specific rebellious acts. Enoch's text describes a containment arrangement that predates the rebellion, predates the creation of the world those beings would later inhabit. The moon was not modified to serve as a container after something went wrong. It was built as one before anything existed to fill it. The rebellion did not trigger the moon's construction. It triggered the moon's filling. That distinction produces a completely different picture of what the moon is within Enochic theology. It is not a natural satellite pressed into secondary service. It is infrastructure. It was built to specification before the world it orbits was fully assembled. The oath in chapter 69-15 sealed the arrangement before the arrangement was used. The prison was designed before the prisoners existed. The moon was structured around an interior purpose before the beings who would fill that interior had committed the acts that sent them there. And Sariel and Asaradel, the two watchers placed within its boundary, govern a body whose interior function they understand from the inside. The Egyptian tradition approaches the same arrangement from a different direction, but arrives at the same structure. Khonsu, the moon deity of Thebes, was understood in Old Kingdom theology not as a god who lived on the moon, but as a god who was enclosed by it. His primary epithet was Neferhotep, the one enclosed in peace. The hieroglyphic composition of that title contains the symbol for an enclosed interior space and the symbol for breath, enclosed breath. The conceptual pairing is identical to the Ge'ez Adar Nafas from Enoch chapter 17. Living things held in a sealed condition between states. The Egyptian theological tradition was describing the same arrangement using its own inherited vocabulary. The Temple of Khonsu at Karnak, constructed under Ramses III around 1186 BCE, was oriented with a precision that later Egyptologists found difficult to account for within standard liturgical practice. The inner sanctuary does not align with the sun at any significant solar event, which was standard Egyptian temple construction. It aligns with the full moon at its highest altitude once per lunar month. When the moon reaches its apex in the sky above the Nile, it sits directly on the sanctuary's axis. The priests of Khonsu named this moment Iret in Snen, the return of the breath, not the moon's return, not the deity's return, the breath's return. Whatever was believed to be enclosed within the moon was understood to become active or communicable at that precise alignment. The temple was not decorative. It was an instrument built to mark the moment when contact with whatever the moon contains was believed to become possible. The Babylonian lunar deity Sin, worshipped at Ur and Haran, is described in the Ur-3 period tablets at the British Museum as carrying across the night sky what the texts call his burden. The standard translation renders the Sumerian phrase for Sin's burden as the light of night. But Thorkild Jacobson, in his 1943 study of Mesopotamian religious literature, flagged the original Sumerian compound Andu-ul as carrying a meaning closer to the thing carried within the covering, not the light, but the object inside the vehicle. Sin is not described in these tablets as generating light, but as transporting something enclosed within the body we observe as the moon. The moon in Babylonian cosmology is a container in transit, not a radiating source. Jacobson flagged this in his 1943 study as having no parallel in the Sumerian corpus, a deity defined not by what it illuminates but by what it transports enclosed within itself across the ancient written record. The British Museum tablets catalogued as numbers 29616 through 29620 from the Ur-3 period record that Sin's burden was placed within him before time began, before the stars were arranged, before the waters were divided. The Babylonian parallel to the Enochic oath sworn before creation appears in a separate tradition with no documented connection to the Enochic corpus. Two ancient traditions, geographically separated, with no known communication channel between them, independently record the same structural claim. The moon's contents were placed inside it before the physical world was finished being assembled, before the stars were set in their courses, before the waters were divided from the land. The moon was not adapted into a container. It was created as one. The Enochic text and the Babylonian tablets are describing the same event from different cultural vantage points. The Council of Laodicea met in 364 CE and produced Canon 60, the catalog of texts acceptable for use in Christian assemblies. Enoch is absent from that list. The stated concern in the Council's records involves the text's detailed treatment of angelic beings. But the internal correspondence of the church hierarchy in the years following Laodicea indicates that the specific problem was not the Watcher narrative in chapters 6 through 11. Those chapters had been known and debated for centuries without triggering formal exclusion. The chapters that forced the vote in 364 CE were the lunar chapters of the Astronomical Book, chapters 72 through 82, and specifically chapter 78 and its variants in the Gaze tradition. Jerome's letter to Paulinus of Nola, written around 395 CE and preserved in the Patrologia Latina, describes the lunar chapters of Enoch as containing statements that imply the moon was made rather than created. The theological distinction Jerome was drawing reveals what the text actually said. Natural bodies are created in the Genesis framework. Designed structures with intended interior functions are made. Jerome read chapter 78 as describing the moon as a constructed object, not a created celestial body placed in the sky for light and calendar purposes. His response was to categorize the text as mythology. He did not dispute the specific architectural language. He moved the text out of the category where that language required a theological response. Augustine's treatment in The City of God, written around 410 CE, went to a different point. He argued that any text claiming knowledge of the interior condition of a heavenly body was claiming knowledge reserved for God alone. Enoch's description of the moon's whist, its enclosed contents, was not a theological error in Augustine's framework. It was a category violation. That argument successfully closed the question for 1,000 years. The astronomical books claim that the moon has contents, that those contents are held in a sealed arrangement, that two beings dwell within the lunar boundary to maintain that arrangement, was removed from the discussion before the question of whether those claims were accurate had been examined at all. Joseph Millick's 1976 edition of the Aramaic Enoch fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls remains the standard scholarly reference. Melik spent decades on those fragments, and his reconstruction of the Astronomical Book is the foundation for every subsequent academic treatment. But Melik made an editorial choice that subsequent researchers have noted without fully examining. The Aramaic fragments of chapter 78 are incomplete. Where the Aramaic is missing, Melik filled the gaps using the Charles 1906 translation as his baseline. The Ge'ez variants, including the secondary clause in chapter 78-3, documented by Isaac, and the whist reading at the center of the chapter, were not incorporated into Melik's reconstruction. His addition renders the key term as the surface of the moon. Surface, not contents. One word that determines whether the verse describes reflective optics or makes a claim about what the moon encloses. The consequence of that editorial choice is that every academic treatment of the Astronomical Book, written after 1976, operates on the assumption that chapter 78 is an ancient description of how the moon reflects sunlight. The reading the Ge'ez at Axum supports that chapter 78 describes the moon's enclosed contents, and the arrangement of what was placed within it is not present in the post 1976 scholarly literature. It exists in the Isaac correspondence at Manchester. It has not been publicly addressed in any peer-reviewed journal. The three passages Vanderkam described in his 2001 Biblical Archaeology Review interview as known to scholars through secondary references but unavailable for direct examination for over 50 years include, based on available secondary evidence, the chapter 78 variant. The full content of those passages remains outside the published record. The Apollo seismic data from 1969 and the years that followed has not been satisfactorily explained within conventional models of lunar geology. The 1972 Proceedings of the Lunar Science Conference contains an analysis noting that the moon's response to surface impacts produced readings consistent with a rigid outer shell surrounding a hollow or low-density interior. The published language was anomalous seismic response inconsistent with a homogeneous solid body. The report recorded the anomaly. It did not speculate on its origin. The finding was published, and the discussion stopped at the observation. In 2011, data from NASA's Grail mission confirmed what the Apollo seismic readings had first indicated. The moon's interior has density variations that do not match standard formation models for naturally occurring satellites. Specifically, the Grail data identified regions beneath the lunar surface with gravitational signatures lower than the surrounding zones by a margin that the mission's principal investigator, Maria Zuber of MIT, described in the published findings as indicating subsurface voids of uncertain origin. Voids, not natural cavities produced by impact history or volcanic outgassing or any other mechanism the geological literature can account for. Voids of uncertain origin, distributed across the lunar interior, confirmed by two independent measurement methods spanning 4 decades. The moon contains spaces that should not be there, and that no current model explains. The Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Axum, Ethiopia, holds the primary collection of Ge'ez Enoch manuscripts. A water-damaged parchment among them contains, according to the Isaac correspondence documented at Manchester, a passage from chapter 78 that does not appear in any published edition of Enoch in any language. Isaac's notes describe the passage as applying to the moon's interior the same class of spatial and architectural language the Book of the Watchers uses for the ocean floor structure. Same vocabulary, same structural category. The passage describes the interior dimensions of what the moon holds, using the same terms chapter 18 applies to the ocean floor prison. The walls of compressed ice, the dark smooth stone, the fire around the perimeter that does not penetrate the interior. The door set into the ice wall on the side, facing away from the heat. The door with no handle on the outside. Access to the Axum manuscripts was restricted to outside researchers beginning in 1974, when the Ethiopian Revolution classified church archives as national cultural property. Vanderkam's access applications in 1988 and 1997 were both declined without stated cause. No external scholar has produced a complete examination of the full Ge'ez Enoch corpus from the primary Axum collection in over 50 years. The passages known through Isaac's secondary documentation exist in a correspondence archive that is accessible but not widely known, not indexed in the standard databases, and not connected by any cross-reference in the published literature to the Enoch fragments at Jerusalem or the Melik edition. 3 bodies of evidence, in 3 countries, describing the same passage, with no connection between them in any published document. Enoch stands at the entrance to the structure, and the angel Uriel stops him from touching the door. No explanation is given in the text. The Ge'ez adds the detail that the door has no external handle, It was designed to be opened from inside, not locked from outside and kept shut. Built without the mechanism that would allow a visitor to enter. The structure was designed for something that would remain within it, not for something that would come and go. The Enochic text applies the same language to the moon in chapter 78. The arrangement that endures within the darkened half, the whisk that remains enclosed, no external mechanism, nothing on the outside that would allow the boundary to be opened from without. The oath of chapter 69 to 15 sealed this before the moon was built. Before the ocean floor was laid, the arrangement was agreed upon. The moon was structured to hold what it holds. Sariel, who governs the lunar phases, and Asaridel, who governs the orbit, dwell within the boundary, not alongside it. They are inside what the moon encloses. The floor of the structure is dark and smooth, the same volcanic basalt the text uses to describe the ocean floor. The walls of compressed ice surround an interior that fire cannot penetrate, and the door will not be opened until the judgment. That is what the Enochic text says in Aramaic fragments at Qumran, and in Ge'ez at Axum, and in the Isaac correspondence archived in Manchester. What the modern data confirms, taken without overstatement, is that the moon contains spaces that should not be there if the moon is a homogeneous solid body formed through conventional satellite processes. The Apollo seismic readings have not been resolved. The Grail gravity data identified voids that remain unexplained. The ancient texts say the moon was built to contain something and was filled before the flood. The modern instruments say the moon contains interior structures that no known natural process accounts for. Those two facts are not the same thing, but they describe the same object. And the text removed from Scripture in 364 CE, that sat unpublished in the Dead Sea Scroll fragments for 30 years, that remains partially inaccessible in a restricted archive in Axum, was describing the moon's interior in plain architectural terms, 2,000 years before anyone had instruments capable of confirming that the moon's interior is worth describing. The manuscripts remain in Axum behind walls and government restriction. The Isaac correspondence sits in Manchester. The Millic edition fills chapter 78's central term with surface when the Ge'ez says contents. The Grail data shows voids of uncertain origin. The Apollo seismic data shows resonance inconsistent with a solid body. And in a text removed from the Bible 17 centuries ago, a man named Enoch stands at the threshold of the sealed structure, shown what it holds by an angel who stops him from approaching the entrance, told that the arrangement endures until the judgment. The arrangement is still there, the voids are still there, and the door, built without an external handle, designed to be opened only from inside, remains exactly as the Ge'ez says it was built to remain.